Hello learners, today we are going to discuss barrier to information communication. It comes under Unit 6 Information Communication. To start our discussion, we should first know what is communication. Communication is a process by which an individual or group transmit information, ideas and feelings to another individual or group through some channels. It is a two-way process whose ultimate purpose is to convey information and ideas in such a manner that will produce a response as desired by the sender. Now the question arises, is all communication effective? Not. All communication are not effective. The recipient may at times may not understood what actually the sender wishes to convey. Thus, the desired result may not be achieved due to communication gap. Then, what is effective communication? Effective communication does not mean mere exchange of information only. It takes into account the underlying intentions as well as emotions of the senders. Communication is effective only if the receiver understood and interpret the message in the same sense as it is sent by the sender. If any kind of obstacles disturbs in any step of the communication process, the message will not be transmitted to the receiver in the same way as sender wishes to send. Such kind of obstacles are called barrier to communication. Barrier to communication, how can it be defined? Barrier to communication can be defined as the aspects or conditions that interfere the effective exchange of ideas or thoughts. In other words, communication barriers are the factors which affects the effective exchange of ideas from the sender to the receiver and disturb the communication flow. There are different types of barriers that may affect the communication process. These barriers may broadly be divided into 6 categories. These are not exclusive, but we have tried to categorize them according to some characteristics. These barriers are physical or environmental barriers, language barriers, psychological barriers, cultural barriers, organizational or institutional barriers, technological barriers. Now, we will discuss each kinds of barriers with some examples. First, the physical or environmental barriers. In physical and environmental barriers, there are several sub areas that may affect communication. One is the time, space, place and surroundings, information overload, and choice of medium. Time. Communication or communicating a people at odd times may not yield desired result. You will experience that telemarketing people call when you are suppose in a class. So what will you do? You will switch off your phone. Similarly, you are in a share market job. You need an immediate information of a share price from a stock advisor. Do you mail him and wait for the reply, or will you make a phone call? So time is one of the crucial factor in the communication. Space. Suppose two peoples need to discuss an important matter and one of them is in India and other is in USA. How they will communicate? Will they mail and then they will discuss over the mail, or they will make a phone call, or they will make the video conferencing? Video conferencing is found to be more effective than telephonic conversation. Place and surroundings have great effect on the communication. For example, a school near a road where the busy traffics are there. So when teacher gives the lectures to the student, the noise may affect flow of information. Similarly, suppose you have gone for a travel in a mountain, remote mountain where there is no signal, no mobile signal, but you want to describe the scenic beauty to your friend lively. You could not do it properly because of this communication problem. Information overload is another problem in the today's information ecosystem. Piling up of tasks due to improper time management may cause the information overload. Also, difficult to in when there is abundant of information, it is very difficult to distinguish real information from the fake information or misinformation. During COVID-19, we have observed many people feared to take vaccine due to abundant misinformation floated in the social media. So many people fears that vaccine may have the more side effects than the COVID itself. So many people does not take the vaccine. Choice of medium is another important which has an effect on the communication process. Communication may take place in various forms. It can be oral, it can be written, audio, video, formal, informal. The vehicle by which we choose to send message is important in successful communication. In most cases, the vehicle to be used is defined by the situation. Take an example. Suppose administration want to people in the coastal region to alert about the impending cyclone. Will they make phone call to one by one, or will they use microphone to inform the people? So choice of medium is defined in many cases defined by the situation. The next is the language barriers. Language is the most crucial in the verbal communication system. If we cannot use proper language, or if we cannot understand the proper meaning of the language of the vocabulary used, then there may be the communication problem. Language barriers may arise due to different reasons. The first is the linguistic difference. Language is the most necessary instrument in communication, especially vocal communication. Due to differences of languages, problem may arise which may affect the communication process. People of different language have their different mother tongues. For example, in India there are several people speak in several languages. When two people are communicating, one should understand the other's language, so the effective communication can take place. The second is the technical jargon. People from different profession, they use their professional language or the technical language, which may not be understood by the people or by the professional of other stream or other discipline. That may create problem. For example, in computer jargon, we used to say to burn a CD. That means the copy the data on a CD. But to a layman, the word burn may have different connotation. So technique. So in effective communication, it is very much important to avoid as much as possible the technical jargon terms. The expression of message. How do you express a message? The effect will be depends on that. Take an instance, The Vulture and the Little Girl photo by Kevin Peter that depict hunger in the Sudan. It creates havoc in the social media as well as people around the world, because it is very much effective than any other form of or story or anything like that one. So the form of expression is very much important. Also, the accent, dialect, body language differs from society to society. For example, one French people is talking to an Bengali people, but they are talking in English, but they are one may not understand the other's language properly because the accent is far differ in that case. So accent, dialect as well as body language is very much important in communication. Limited vocabulary. Vocabulary, richness of vocabulary help us to express the things properly. Sometimes we are very much feel awkward because we could not express the things properly because of our limited vocabulary. So vocabulary has very much important in the communication process. The next is that connotative meaning. The same words may have the different meaning, depends on the context. For example, one is saying that one should fight for one's right. Here, right means what is due to a person or what is genuine or lawful demand. Another person is telling that he takes the right decision. Here, right means actually the correct. Also, it differs dramatically from denotative meaning. Connotative meaning differs from this denotative meaning. For example, one tell that please leave. Another is telling that get out. Though are these two words are synonymous, but they have a different connotation. The next is the literacy levels. Literacy levels has very much effect on communication. Suppose a scientist is explaining a things of complex scientific matter to a layman, that layman may not understood because there is a havoc difference between the two persons, between the communicator and the listener. So literacy levels very much affect the communication process. The next is that psychological barriers. In psychological barriers, because the communication actually depends on the mental state of the listener as well as the communicator. Psychological barriers play a crucial role in communication process. Under the psychological barrier, attention is one of the important matter. If the receiver is preoccupied by other thoughts rather than listening, then communication will not be effective. Take an example. Suppose a teacher is taking a class around 5 p.m. but students are looking outside the window towards the playing ground because their mind is occupied when the bell will ring and we will go to the field for playing football. So in that case, since students are not paying attention what is teacher is telling, then there will not be the communication will not be effective. The second is the fear, confidence and unwillingness, fear due to lack of self confidence. We may fear, sometimes we fear to share information because they may affect in some way or other way. Confidence as well as inferiority complex or the overconfidence may act as a barrier. Also, knowledge is a power. Sometimes in the organization, we do not want to share the unwillingly, we do not want to share the information because that may affect us somehow. We may know that our importance may be lost. So, fear, confidence, and unwillingness play a significant role in communication. Human are not God, so there may be the bias. So bias we will see in society in everywhere. Some bias may occur. So what is needed in the communication process? Bias, as much as possible, biasness to be avoided. In practically, we'll see that suppose in a discussion or anything that people rely more on old thoughts rather than innovative idea given by a newcomers. In also research communication, we will see that if a new idea is given by newcomer, then people may not rely on that. The senior scientist may say, no, this is not possible, and they may discard it, and it happens. Then the social status. The social status also play a very vital role in communication process. Social positioning is also matter. Suppose you are in a organization, you are in a higher post. Some ground level staff told you to that this will not be good. Generally, the people in higher position they may not give importance what the lower level staff has been told. That happens. Also, the social positioning. Suppose a layman told that this can be done in this way, people may not listen. Whereas if a person with a high social stature told the same thing, that will be listened by many people and people may give attention. Besides this, the caste and creed may play differently in the communication process. Trust is very much important in the communication process. If there is no mutual trust, the communication process will not be effective. So, we may not share the information or may not give the proper information if we do not trust the receiver of the information. Emotion have a very important role in the communication process. One's state of mind plays an important role in the act of communication. For example, if sender is worried, excited, or afraid, he may not be able to organize his message properly and may not be able to communicate this what he wants to say properly. Similarly, if the receiver is not in a proper state of mind, he may misinterpret the message. Suppose when you are in anger, you may tell many things, but actually that does not mean what you want to say. So emotions play an important role in communication process. Experience as well as openness of mind have a very important role in communication process. Open experience will help us to interpret in a better way. Openness of mind is necessary to absorb, to get the new idea. So openness of mind is very much important in communication process. The next is the cultural barriers. Culture has an unseen influence on people because it impacts our beliefs and values which cannot be seen by others. So our behavior sometimes driven by these cultural values and beliefs which may not be seen by the co-workers or the employees. So cultural barriers play an important role in the communication process. In the cultural barrier, language is all considered as the most crucial barrier of the cross-cultural communication. Since verbal communication is important in every context, the understanding of the meanings of the words are also very important. So language is very much important in the cross-cultural communication. Then value and beliefs. Each culture has its own value, meaning and norms different from others. For example, in Western culture, we greet each other by hugging or kissing. But in Indian culture, what we say? We say namaste. And more important is that kiss has the very different interpretation in Indian context. So value and beliefs have a very much important in the communication. To understand, there should not be ethnocentrism when you communicate a people of other culture. Gesture plays very important in the cross-cultural communication. For example, in Brazil, physical contact is a part of the communication, whereas in Japan, it is totally opposite. In Brazil, if you pat a back on the back of a person, that means it is friendly. But in Japan, they maintain a respectful distance. This is the gesture. Similarly, the social relation has a very much important. How people are related with each other socially and their customs. Now comes the organizational and institutional barriers. In organization, hierarchical structure, department silos, inadequate communication channels, poor leadership, all these play a crucial role in communication. They act as a, if they are not proper, then they act as a barrier to effective communication. In the hierarchical structure, you will see that people at the higher level may not give the importance to the people at the lower level, lower hierarchical structure. Similarly, the people in the lower level or the employee at the lower level, you may not share what is important for the people at the higher level, at decision level. And because suppose once or twice he suggests something, but that has not been taken into account. So when it is necessary to get the important information, he may not share that one. Departmental silos are very much problem because people will not share in the organization. One department cannot share the information with the other department, and that's why the concept of knowledge management comes into the picture. Inadequate communication channel, suppose one has that problem, but there is no channel to communicate that one to the higher level, to the organization head. The poor leadership also a very much uh, act as a barrier in the communication process. Then censorship in the censorship used in society in many cases to avoid social unrest, or people, if those who are in the higher position, if they think that this is no, this will be harmful for the society, they do the censorship. Sometimes there are classified information. For during the war, we did not get, we usually not get that actual information about the war, how many soldiers have died, what is their position of the soldiers at the front line, because that comes under the classified information. The next is the technological barriers. Under the technological barriers category, connectivity is the can act as a barrier. If the connectivity is poor, suppose you are in a desert, Thor desert area in Rajasthan, there may not be a tower, so you may not be able to communicate if you require to an immediate communication. So connectivity problem, and in our daily life what we will see that sometimes in a video conferencing there is no signal, or there is problem. So connectivity has a very important. The second is that compatibility. In information and communication technology, every day the software, the hardware getting updated every day. Sometimes the compatibility can cause the data loss or the communication problem. So for example, earlier we used CD, now we did not use the CD. So when suppose you have kept some information in the CD, so how do you retrieve that one if there is no CD driver nowadays? So technological barrier, especially the compatibility problem comes into the picture. Next is the technical problems. Technical problems arise at any time. Suppose you are delivering a lecture in a shower, so the microphone, the connection, the microphone get corrupted. So what will you do? You have to deliver the invoice, but it will not reach to the people who is at distance. In a large gathering, you have to use the microphone. So technical problems may act as a problem in communication. The next is the digital literacy. Digital literacy is very much important because nowadays we use most of the communication device use the digital platform. Suppose you want to chat with a person sitting in the USA, but you do not know how to use the WhatsApp or the social media, so you could not be able to communicate properly. Digital literacy is very much important communication process. Also, due to advance of technology, also there is a problem of security. You want to communicate through mail, but your mail get hacked. You could not use the mail. Then the security concern comes in front. So these are the different types of barriers. I have tried to uh, summarize and categorize this one. The next question is that overcoming the barriers of communication. How to overcome the barrier of communication? Though there are lots of ways we can overcome the barrier of communication, and it depends on upon the situation or the specific cases. I have tried to give a general rules how to overcome this barrier of communication. First is the selection of suitable medium. The situation will tell that what kind of medium may be the effective in communication. The next important part is the ability of listening. Nowadays everybody wants to tell, but knowledgeable people listen more than what they tells, because listening ability will help us to grasp the situation, the knowledge, the information in more sophisticated way. Similarly, the level of knowledge plays an important part in the overcome to overcome the barrier to communication. When you are talking to a other person, if their level of knowledge are compatible or at par, then there will be the effective communication. Then use of proper language has a very important role in communication, especially the most of this verbal communication. So proper language, because different word have different connotation, so proper language as well as effective body language has a very much important role to overcome the barrier of communication. When we tell something, the state of mind plays an important role, and we should control our emotion. If we tell a person anything in anger, that will be different meaning. Then the other is that when we do the cross cultural communication, we should respect the cultural differences, we should respect the people of other culture. That will help the modest approach, that will help to communicate in a far better way. The next is that clarity of presentation. In any presentation, clarity is very much important, and that clarity, the verbal clarity as well as you can take the visual aid to express the things. So clarity in presentation help us to overcome the communication barrier. Then I have given that some references, and then I have added questions, MCQs, and some short question as per the norms. Thank you all.